Hey guys, welcome back to Nadir Audio. Today we're going to be doing a long-term review on my U-Turn Orbit turntable. Okay, so I picked up this U-Turn Orbit turntable in March of 2017, so a little over 3 years ago at the time of the making of this video, and this has been my main turntable since then. But I actually didn't buy it to get back into vinyl. I've actually been into vinyl continuously since the 80s. And the first turntable I ever bought was actually an Akai APM3. And this was a skinny little belt-driven fully automatic table. That the form factor was designed that way because it was designed to sit on top of one of those Akai mini systems that were popular at the time. But I bought it because it was the least expensive turntable I could find. I saw it advertised in the paper and went down one weekend to this little hi-fi shop and picked it up. And it was great. I was really happy to have a turntable, and I used it for a few years and started to get really into vinyl. I did replace it at some point in the early to mid-90s with an Onkyo CP1022A. This is another belt-driven turntable, but it's more full-size. It was also semi-automatic, so it would return the tone arm when it was done playing a side, but it didn't have an auto-start feature. And that one was better because I was able to upgrade the cartridge, and I think the last cartridge I had on there, it was definitely some type of Shure, but I don't remember the exact model number. But it was an upgrade in terms of sound, and I used that for several years until the early 2000s. And that's when I got this guy. This is a Marantz model 6350Q. Q, of course, stands for quartz lock. This is actually a direct drive turntable, the first direct drive I've ever had experience with. And this was given to me by a friend of mine, and he had received it from some friends of his. And he said, it doesn't sound that great, and can you do something with this? If so, you can have it. And so I was like, sure, it looked really cool, and I thought, hey, maybe we can get this thing to be a decent turntable. So the first thing I did is I upgraded the cartridge. I put this Stanton 680 Hi-Fi on there. It's kind of an entry-level cartridge. I didn't want to spend a lot of money right out of the gate until I figured out if there was other problems with this turntable. But fortunately, they weren't. So it actually worked really well. Up to that point, it was the best sounding turntable I had. And I used this thing a lot, all the way through the 2000s into the 2010s. And I used it right up until March 2017. And that's actually when it had stopped working. And so at that point, I just didn't have the time or energy to have it looked at and fixed. So I thought temporarily I would get a replacement just so I could continue to spin vinyl. And at some point, I'd come back to this. And that's when I got the Orbit, and the Orbit's been my main turntable since then. Now I did get this Marantz up and running again a few months ago, so it does actually work now, which is cool. But we'll make a dedicated video about this one in the future. I do want to finally upgrade this cartridge to something better, and I want to spend some more time with this again because it's been a while. Do some A/B comparisons maybe with the Orbit. We'll see. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the Orbit. Okay, so the Orbit is fairly typical of entry-level turntables these days in that it's very streamlined and stripped down. Not a lot of bells and whistles. It's just a real basic belt-driven turntable. We've got the external belt here, and you can move it over here to change the speed. And that's pretty much it. There's really not a lot of other functionality built in. Although there are a few things that you can upgrade. So the biggest upgrade is something actually that I didn't get, which is the Orbit Plus, I think it's called, where you can have a phono amp built into the turntable. I didn't do that. I'm currently using the phono amp on my Sprout 100, and that works out really well. And also I knew that at some point I was going to be experimenting with external phono amps, so it wasn't something that I felt I needed. But I did upgrade a few other things. I got the nice acrylic platter here. I got a cork mat, which I got mainly because I think it looks kind of cool. I think if I had to do it again, I probably would just get a rubber mat, but it works fine. And then I had a Q-arm installed. That's just something that I kind of need, just because I've always had really shaky hands. So this allows me to just dropped the needle on the record very smoothly, which is something that maybe not everybody would need. And then the only other upgrade I got was the cartridge, the phono cartridge. Now I can't remember what this comes with. I think it's sort of an entry-level Shure cartridge, and then there are some other options, including a Grado option. I ended up getting the Ortofon 2M Red, and I would still consider this to be an entry-level phono cartridge, but I've actually been very happy with it. So overall, I really like the sound of this thing. I think it sounds very lively and dynamic for good sounding vinyl. It definitely sounds better than any other turntable I've owned. Now, keep in mind, I've only had vintage and entry-level stuff. I haven't experimented with any higher-end turntables. But that being said, I've been very happy with the sound. Overall, there's only a few little nitpicky things that maybe I think could be better on the Orbit. One is just the fit and finish. I got this in this sort of red finish, which I like and thought was kind of fun, but it's not the best paint job in the world. If you look closely at it, there's a bit of orange peel, and it's not really a high shine, but it looks fine. I think it looks pretty cool. I just think that some of the other entry-level decks, like the Fluence RT85, I think those look a little higher end, even though they're in the same price point. And similarly with the acrylic dust cover here, this is it's fine, but there's like a slight dullness to it that makes it look a little cheaper. And then mine has developed these tiny little micro cracks in the corner. Not a big deal, doesn't affect the usage at all. And then one other thing is the hinges on the lid. They actually work fine at this point. If you lift it up, it will stay up. But when I first bought it, before the hinges had kind of worn in, you'd lift it up, and if you didn't hold it in place for a second or two, it would just immediately fall back down, which was kind of annoying. That has stopped happening, I think, just because the hinges have worked themselves in. But I don't know if you can see in the video, it's just a piece of plastic that's sort of crimped in the middle on the hinge. I've had this 3 years and it's worked just fine. It hasn't broken yet, but I could just see at some point that splitting and the hinges having to be replaced. All of the other turntables, including fairly inexpensive turntables I've owned in the past, have had metal hinges with spring-loaded hinges that I think worked a little better and probably a little more robust. But again, that's really nitpicking. I'd say the only other thing is, you can adjust the orbit if you want to change the cartridge, but they don't really make it easy. It's not like on my Marantz where you can dial things in. You have to unscrew things here and manually move the weight, and it's a little bit of a pain, I think it will be, to change the cartridge. I think they're thinking that most people that buy one of these will probably, whatever cartridge they start out with is what they'll end up with. I might change that, but again, I think for the price, you can't really complain. And again, the sound has been excellent, and it's really allowed me to enjoy my vinyl collection. Now, at some point, there's tons of YouTube videos out there of people sort of extol the virtues of upgrading from the 2M red to the 2M blue or black. And that's something I've considered, that I may do that at some point. I thought maybe I would take this one and put it on my Marantz and then put a blue on here, or maybe just try out something new and completely different. I don't know, but at least we have some options on here to upgrade. But for now, I've been very happy with this. I would definitely highly recommend it as an entry-level turntable if you're looking for something. We're probably going to stick with this for a while. Eventually, I do maybe want to upgrade to something. I've always had my eye on the Riga Planar 3 is a cool turntable. I've been interested in that Shit Audio Soul. It's kind of an interesting concept. So there's other things that maybe we can upgrade to in the future. But I think that's kind of a little bit more long range. I think in the short term, maybe we'll do a video at some point in the not too distant future about trying out a different cartridge on this. And I'm definitely going to be experimenting with some other external phono preamps. So we'll have that coming up in the future. But in the meantime, this is the main turntable in my system, and I'm very happy with it. All right, guys, I think that's it for this one. I'll see you all in the next video.